Sam had always been afraid of the dark. Even at 25 years old, he still kept a small light on when he slept. His friends laughed at him for it. His girlfriend, Mira, found it sweet at first, but after 2 years together, she had started to find it annoying. She said it kept her awake. Sam told her he was sorry, but he could not change it. The dark did something to him. It made his heart beat fast. It made his hands shake. It made him feel like something was watching him from a place he could not see. Sam worked at a small bookshop in the city. It was a quiet job. He liked it because the shop was always bright. Big windows let the sunlight in during the day, and at night, the owner kept every light on until closing time. Sam would arrange the books on the shelves, help customers find what they were looking for, and sometimes sit behind the counter reading when things were slow. It was a simple life, and he was happy with it. One evening in October, everything changed. It was a Thursday. Sam remembered this clearly, because Thursdays were the days Mira came to the shop to walk home with him. But that Thursday, she sent him a message saying she was not feeling well and would stay home. Sam read the message and felt a small knot form in his stomach. He did not like walking home alone at night. The streets between the bookshop and his apartment were not well lit. There were long stretches where the streetlights were broken or missing, and the city never seemed to fix them. He closed the shop at 9 o'clock. He locked the front door, pulled down the metal shutter, and stood on the sidewalk for a moment. The air was cold. The sky was black and full of clouds. There were no stars. Sam pulled his jacket tighter around himself and started walking. There were still people around, cars passing, shops with their lights still on. But as he moved further away from the main road, things got quieter. The buildings became older and darker. The sidewalk became cracked and uneven. And then the streetlights disappeared. Sam walked faster. He could hear his own footsteps echoing off the walls of the buildings around him. He put his hands in his pockets and kept his eyes straight ahead. He told himself there was nothing to be afraid of. He told himself he was a grown man. He told himself that fear of the dark was something children had, not adults. But then he heard something. It was a sound behind him, a soft sound, like a shoe scraping against the ground. Sam stopped. He turned around. There was nothing there, just the dark street stretching out behind him, empty and silent. He waited for a moment, listening. Nothing. He turned back around and kept walking. This time it was closer. Sam stopped again. His heart was beating hard now. He could feel it in his chest, in his throat, in his ears. He turned around slowly. Again, nothing. The street was empty, but Sam had a feeling, a strong, cold feeling in his gut that told him he was not alone. He started walking again, faster this time, almost running. The sound behind him kept pace. Every time he sped up, the sound sped up too. Every time he slowed down, it slowed down. Sam did not turn around again. He was too afraid of what he might see. He reached the train station at the end of the street. It was an old station that was not used much anymore. Most people took the bus or drove their cars, but the train still ran, once every hour, and Sam knew that one was coming soon. He ran down the steps and onto the platform. The platform was empty. The lights above were old and yellow, and some of them flickered. Sam stood in the middle of the platform and looked back at the stairs. Nobody came down. The sound had stopped. He let out a long breath and leaned against a pillar. His hands were shaking. He waited. After about 10 minutes, he heard the sound of the train coming. It was a low rumble at first, then it grew louder. The headlights appeared in the tunnel, 2 bright circles cutting through the darkness. The train pulled into the station and stopped with a loud hiss. The doors opened. Sam looked inside. The train was almost empty. There were only 3 other people in the car he could see. An old man sitting near the door, reading a newspaper. A young woman with headphones on, looking at her phone. and a boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old, sitting in the back of the car by himself. The boy was staring straight ahead, with wide eyes, not blinking, not moving. Sam got on the train. He sat down near the middle of the car, not too close to anyone. The doors closed, and the train started moving. Sam felt safe for the first time since leaving the bookshop. He was inside. There were lights, there were other people. Whatever had been following him on the street could not reach him here. He took out his phone and sent a message to Mira. On the train. Home soon. She did not reply. She was probably sleeping. Sam looked around the car again. The old man was still reading. The woman was still on her phone. But the boy in the back had moved. He was sitting closer now, just a few seats away from Sam. Sam had not seen him move. He had not heard him move. But there he was, sitting perfectly still, staring at nothing. Sam looked away. Something about the boy made him uncomfortable. It was the way he sat so still, the way his eyes did not seem to focus on anything. Sam told himself he was being silly. The boy was just a kid. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he was lost in his thoughts. There was nothing strange about it. The windows turned black. Sam could see his own reflection in the glass. He could see the reflection of the old man, the woman, and the boy. But something was wrong. In the reflection, the boy was not looking straight ahead anymore. In the reflection, the boy was looking directly at Sam. Sam turned his head quickly. The boy was still staring at the same spot as before, not looking at Sam at all. Sam looked back at the reflection. The boy in the reflection was still looking at him. Sam felt his blood go cold. The reflection was not matching what was real. The boy in the glass was smiling now, a wide, unnatural smile that stretched too far across his face. Sam closed his eyes. He told himself it was his imagination. He told himself he was tired and scared, and his mind was playing tricks on him. When he opened his eyes again, he would look at the reflection, and everything would be normal. He opened his eyes. The boy was looking straight ahead. No smile, no strange expression. Sam let out a breath. He almost laughed at himself. He was losing his mind over nothing. But then the train stopped. Not at a station. It just stopped, right there in the middle of the tunnel. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out. The car was plunged into complete darkness. Sam could not see anything. Not his hands, not the seats, not the other passengers. And then, in the darkness, he heard breathing. Close, very close, right next to his ear. Sam could not move. He could not speak. He sat there in the dark, frozen, feeling the warm breath on his neck. Then a voice whispered, so softly that Sam almost did not hear it. You should not have gotten on this train. The lights came back on. It happened all at once, like someone had flipped a switch. Sam blinked hard, his eyes hurting from the sudden brightness. His body was stiff and cold. He was gripping the edge of his seat so hard that his fingers had turned white. He looked around. The old man was still reading his newspaper. The woman was still looking at her phone. Everything was exactly the same as before. Sam turned to look at the seat beside him. Nobody was there. He looked to the back of the car where the boy had been sitting. The boy was gone. Sam stood up. He looked down the length of the car, checking every seat. The boy was not there. He walked to the doors that connected to the next car and looked through the small window. The next car was empty, completely empty. Sam turned and looked through the window on the other side. That car was empty too. The train started moving again. It rolled forward slowly, then picked up speed. Sam sat back down, his legs feeling weak. He tried to make sense of what had just happened. The breathing on his neck, the voice, the boy disappearing. None of it was possible. People did not just vanish from trains. Reflections did not move on their own. He took out his phone and tried to call Mira. The call did not go through. There was no signal in the tunnel. He put the phone back in his pocket and waited. The train pulled into the next station. The doors opened. Sam stood up to leave, but then he stopped. He looked at the platform outside. It was the wrong station. He did not recognize the name on the sign. He had taken this train many times before, and he knew every stop on the line. But this station was not one of them. The sign on the wall said Harrowfield. Sam had never heard of a place called Harrowfield. The old man stood up and walked to the door. He stepped off the train without looking back. The woman with the headphones got up too. She walked to the door, still looking at her phone, and stepped off. Sam watched them walk across the platform. Neither of them seemed confused or surprised. They walked as if they knew exactly where they were going. Sam almost followed them. But something stopped him. A feeling in his stomach. A tightness that told him not to leave the train. He did not know why. He just knew. So he stayed where he was, and the doors closed, and the train moved on. Now Sam was alone. The car felt bigger when it was empty. The seats stretched out in long rows on either side of him, and the silence was heavy. The only sound was the rattle of the train on the tracks, and the low hum of the engine. Sam sat very still, his hands on his knees, watching the dark tunnel walls slide past the windows. He checked his phone again. Still no signal. The battery was at 32%. He put it away and tried to stay calm. The train would stop at the next station, and he would get off. He would find his way home. Everything would be fine. But the next station did not come. Minutes passed. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15. The train kept moving and the tunnel kept going, and no station appeared. Sam stood up and walked to the front of the car. He pressed his face against the window and looked ahead. All he could see was the tunnel, dark and endless, with the train tracks disappearing into the black. He walked back to his seat. Then he stood up again and walked to the back of the car. He looked through the window into the next car. It was still empty. But wait, not completely empty. There was something on one of the seats, something small and dark. Sam pushed open the connecting door and stepped into the next car. The air was colder here. The lights were dimmer. He walked toward the object on the seat. It was a book, a small old book with a brown leather cover. Sam picked it up. There was no title on the front, no author name. He opened it to the first page. The paper was yellow and thin. There was writing on it, small and neat, written by hand. If you are reading this, you are on the last train. Do not get off at the wrong station. Wait for the one with no name. That is the only way back. Sam read the words 3 times. His hands were trembling. He flipped to the next page. More writing. The boy is not real. He is a memory. The train collects them. It has been running for a long time, picking up the things people have lost. Memories, fears, dreams. They sit in the seats and ride the train forever. Do not talk to them. Do not touch them. Do not look at them for too long. If you do, the train will think you belong here too. Sam closed the book. He wanted to throw it away, but he held on to it. Something told him it was important. Something told him he would need it. He walked back to his own car and sat down. He put the book on his lap and looked out the window. The tunnel was still going. But now, he noticed something he had not noticed before. There were shapes in the darkness outside the window. They moved along the walls of the tunnel, just at the edge of the light from the train. They were not shadows. Shadows do not move on their own. These shapes were moving with the train, keeping pace, sliding along the walls like dark water. Sam looked away. He remembered what the book said. Do not look at them for too long. He opened the book again and turned to the next page. The writing continued. There have been others before you. Some got off at the wrong station. They are still here, walking the platforms, waiting for trains that never come. Some talked to the memories. They became memories themselves. Some found the station with no name. They went home. They were the lucky ones. Sam felt a wave of fear wash over him, so strong that it made him feel sick. He closed the book and pressed his forehead against the cool glass of the window. He could see his reflection, just his own face, pale and scared. Nothing else. No boy, no strange smile. Just him. The train began to slow down. Sam sat up straight. Through the window he could see a platform appearing. The train was pulling into another station. Sam stood up and walked to the door. He looked at the sign on the platform wall. Dunmore. Another name he did not recognize. He remembered the book. Wait for the one with no name. This station had a name, so this was the wrong one. Sam stepped back from the door. The doors opened. Cold air rushed in. Sam could see the platform clearly. It was old and dirty. The tiles on the walls were cracked and falling off. The benches were rusted, and there were people on the platform. Not many, maybe 5 or 6. They were standing in a line, perfectly still, facing the train. They were dressed in clothes from different times. One woman wore a long dress that looked like something from 100 years ago. A man next to her wore a suit with a hat from maybe the 1950s. A teenager in the line wore clothes that looked modern, jeans and a hoodie, but his face was pale and blank. None of them moved. None of them tried to get on the train. They just stood there, staring. Sam remembered the book. Do not look at them for too long. He turned away and sat back down. The doors closed. The train moved on. Sam held the book tightly in his hands and waited for the next station. He did not know how long he would have to wait. He did not know if the station with no name even existed, but he had no other choice. He was on the last train, and he had to find his way home. The tunnel stretched on. The shapes moved along the walls. The train rattled and hummed. And Sam sat alone in the empty car, holding a book written by someone who had been here before him, hoping that he would be one of the lucky ones. Somewhere far ahead, in the darkness of the tunnel, something was waiting for him. Sam could feel it. Not with his eyes or his ears, but with something deeper, something old. The train was taking him somewhere, and wherever it was, he was getting closer with every second. He opened the book again. There was one more line on the page, written in different handwriting, shaky and uneven, as if the person who wrote it had been very scared. Sam was getting tired. That was the worst part. His eyes were heavy, and his body felt like it was made of stone. The train had been moving for what felt like hours. There was no way to tell the real time, because his phone had died 20 minutes ago. The screen had gone black and would not turn on again, even though it had been at 32% the last time he checked. The battery had drained all at once, as if something had sucked the life out of it. He slapped his own face, not hard, but enough to sting. He needed to stay awake. The book had told him not to fall asleep, and he believed the book. Everything it had said so far had been true. The boy was gone. The stations had strange names. The shapes moved along the tunnel walls. Whoever had written those words knew what this train was, and Sam was not going to ignore their warning. He stood up and started walking, back and forth, up and down the car, counting his steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn. The movement helped. It kept the blood flowing to his brain and stopped his eyelids from dropping. As he walked, he looked at the book again. He had read through most of it now. Some pages were blank. Some had drawings, rough sketches of the train, the tunnel, the stations. One page had a map, but it made no sense. The lines went in circles and crossed over each other in ways that no real train line ever would. At the bottom of the map, there was a single dot with an arrow pointing to it and the words, "No name," written beside it. Sam studied the map. He tried to figure out where he was on it, but there were no markers, no distances, no way to tell. He closed the book and kept walking. The train slowed down again. Another station. Sam went to the window and looked out. The sign on the wall said, Colworth. Another name. Another wrong station. Sam did not even go near the door this time. He just watched from his seat as the doors opened and closed. There was nobody on the platform this time. It was completely empty. The lights on the platform buzzed and flickered. One of them exploded with a small pop, sending sparks down onto the dirty tiles. Then the doors closed and the train moved on. Sam sat back down. He was so tired. His body was begging him to close his eyes, just for a second, just for one moment of rest. He dug his fingernails into the palm of his hand. The pain was sharp and real, and it pushed the sleep away for a little while. Then he heard something, a sound from the next car. It was a soft sound, like humming. Someone was humming a song. Sam turned his head and looked through the connecting door window. In the next car, sitting in the same seat where Sam had found the book, there was a woman. She had not been there before. Sam was sure of it. He had walked through that car not long ago and it had been empty. But now there she was, sitting perfectly still, humming a tune that Sam almost recognized. It was a lullaby. The kind of song a mother sings to a child at bedtime. Sam remembered the book. Do not talk to them. Do not touch them. Do not look at them for too long. He turned away from the window. But the humming continued. It came through the walls, through the door, filling the car with its soft, sad melody. It was beautiful in a way that hurt. Sam felt tears forming in his eyes, and he did not know why. The song made him think of his mother. She used to sing to him when he was small, when he was afraid of the dark. She would sit on the edge of his bed and sing until he fell asleep. Her voice had been warm and safe, and for a moment, the darkness had not been so scary. Sam shook his head. He could not think about that now. The humming was doing something to him. It was pulling at him, making him want to close his eyes, making him want to sleep. He pressed his hands over his ears. The sound was quieter now, but he could still hear it, faint and far away, like a memory that would not leave. He started counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He counted out loud, letting his own voice fill the car and push the humming away. He counted to 100, then started again. His throat was dry and his voice was rough, but he kept going. The humming stopped. Sam took his hands off his ears and listened. Silence, just the train. He looked through the window into the next car. The woman was gone. The seat was empty again. Sam let out a long, shaky breath. He was winning. He was fighting whatever this place was, and he was winning. But then something happened that Sam did not expect. The train stopped again, and this time it was not at a station. It stopped in the middle of the tunnel, just like before. The lights stayed on this time, but the engine went quiet. The hum of the machinery died, and the car was filled with a deep, thick silence. Sam waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Nothing happened. The train did not move. Sam stood up and went to the door. He pressed the button to open it. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Nothing. He tried the emergency handle. It would not move. He was locked in. He walked to the windows. They did not open. He banged on the glass with his fist. The sound was dull and flat, as if the glass was much thicker than it looked. He tried every door, every window, every handle in the car. Nothing worked. He was trapped. Sam sat back down. He tried to stay calm, but it was getting harder. The air in the car felt different now, heavier, warmer, like the walls were slowly closing in. He could smell something too, something old and dusty, like a room that had not been opened in years. Then the lights began to change. They did not go out. Instead, they changed color. The white light turned yellow, then orange, then a deep red. The car looked like it was on fire. everything bathed in red light. Sam's skin looked red. His hands looked red. The seats, the floor, the ceiling, everything was red. And then he saw them. They were sitting in the seats, all of them. Every seat in the car was now occupied. Men, women, children, old and young, dressed in clothes from every time period Sam could think of. They sat perfectly still, their hands on their laps, their eyes closed. There must have been 40 or 50 of them, filling every seat in the car. Sam stood in the middle of the aisle, surrounded by them. He could not move. He could barely breathe. The book had told him about these people. They were the ones who had gotten off at the wrong station, the ones who had talked to the memories, the ones who had fallen asleep. They were trapped here, riding the train forever, lost between the real world and whatever this place was. Sam pressed himself against the door and tried not to look at them. But they were everywhere. He could not avoid them. He closed his eyes instead and pressed his forehead against the cold metal of the door. "I want to go home," he whispered. "Please, I just want to go home." The train jolted. Sam's eyes flew open. The engine roared back to life. The lights turned white again. And just like that, the people were gone. Every seat was empty. The car was exactly as it had been before. Sam was alone again. The train started moving, slowly at first, then faster. Sam collapsed into the nearest seat. His whole body was shaking. His shirt was soaked with sweat. He held the book against his chest like a shield and stared at the tunnel ahead. He did not know how much more of this he could take. His body was exhausted. His mind was breaking apart. Every minute on this train felt like an hour, and every hour felt like a day. He did not know how long he had been here. It could have been 3 hours or 3 days. Time did not seem to work the same way on this train. But he was still awake. He was still alive. And somewhere ahead there was a station with no name. A way out, a way home. Sam opened the book one more time. On the last page, in the same shaky handwriting as before, there were 2 more lines. "The station with no name appears when the train thinks you are ready. It does not come to everyone, only to those who refuse to give up." Sam closed the book. He set his jaw. He straightened his back. He was not going to give up. He was not going to fall asleep. He was not going to talk to the memories or look at the shapes in the tunnel. He was going to sit here, awake and alive, until the station with no name appeared. The train passed through 3 more stations. Each one had a name. Each one was wrong. Sam did not even look at the platforms anymore. He kept his eyes on the floor and waited for the doors to close and the train to keep moving. He had a system now. When the tiredness got bad, he would stand up and walk. When the walking was not enough, he would pinch himself or bite the inside of his cheek. When even that failed, he would open the book and read the same pages again, reminding himself what would happen if he stopped fighting. But the train was getting smarter. It started with small things. The temperature in the car changed. It became warm, perfectly warm, like a bed with fresh blankets on a cold night. The kind of warm that makes your muscles relax and your breathing slow down. Sam noticed it right away and stood up. He opened the collar of his jacket and tried to let the cool air in, but there was no cool air. The whole car was wrapped in that soft, dangerous warmth. Then the sound changed. The rattle of the tracks became softer, more rhythmic. It turned into a gentle rocking, like a cradle, back and forth, back and forth. The vibration of the train moved through the seat and into Sam's body, and it felt like being held, like being safe, like being home. Sam gritted his teeth and stood in the middle of the aisle. He would not sit down. Sitting down was too comfortable. Standing was harder, and harder was better. Harder meant he was still awake. Then the lights dimmed. Not all the way, just enough. Just enough to take the sharpness out of everything. The car became soft and golden, like a room lit by candles. Sam's eyes strained against it. The dimness made his eyelids heavy. Every blink lasted a little longer than the one before. "Stop it," Sam said out loud. His voice sounded strange in the empty car. It sounded small and lonely. "I know what you are doing. It is not going to work." The train did not answer. Of course it did not. It was a train. But Sam felt something shift, something change in the air, as if the train had heard him and was thinking about what to do next. What it did next was cruel. A voice came through the speakers above Sam's head. It was crackly and old, like a recording that had been played too many times. But the voice was clear enough, and Sam recognized it immediately. It was his mother's voice. "Sam," she said. "Sweetheart, it is time to sleep." Sam's knees went weak. He grabbed the metal pole beside him to keep from falling. His mother had died 3 years ago. A heart attack, sudden and fast. She had been alone in her apartment when it happened. By the time the neighbors found her, she had been gone for 2 days. Sam had never forgiven himself for not being there. He had never forgiven himself for not calling her that week. He had never forgiven himself for a lot of things. "Sam," the voice said again, "you look so tired. Come and rest. Everything is going to be okay." Tears ran down Sam's face. He could not stop them. The voice was exactly right. The tone, the warmth, the way she said his name, it was her. He knew it was not really her. He knew it was the train, using his memories, pulling things out of his mind to use against him. But knowing that didn't make it hurt any less. "You are not her," Sam said, his voice cracked. "She is gone. You are not her." The voice went quiet. The speakers crackled once more, and then went silent. Sam stood in the aisle, holding the pole, crying without sound. He let himself cry for a minute. Then he wiped his face with his sleeve, took a deep breath, and sat back down. He picked up the book from the seat beside him and held it in his lap. The train had tried to break him with comfort. It had tried to break him with memories. It had tried to break him with the voice of the person he missed most in the world. And it had almost worked. But Sam was still here. He was still awake. The train went through another tunnel, darker than the ones before. The shapes on the walls were bigger now. They pressed against the glass, leaving marks that looked like handprints. Sam did not look at them. He kept his eyes on the book in his lap, and waited. When the tunnel opened up into another station, Sam looked at the sign on the wall. It said Morrow End. Another name, another wrong station. The doors opened. Nobody got on. Nobody got off. The doors closed. But this time, before the train moved, Sam heard something. A voice. Not from the speakers, not from the tunnel, from inside the train, from the next car. "Hello? Is someone there?" Sam froze. The voice was real. It was not like the memories, not flat and dead and perfect. This voice was shaking. This voice was afraid. This voice belonged to a living person. Sam stood up and walked to the connecting door. He looked through the window. In the next car, standing in the middle of the aisle, was a girl. She looked about 19 or 20. She had short dark hair and was wearing a green coat. Her face was pale and her eyes were wide with fear. She was holding on to one of the poles, looking around the empty car like she did not know where she was. Sam pushed open the door. The girl jumped and spun around. When she saw him, her face changed. The fear did not go away, but something else appeared alongside it. Relief. "Oh, thank God," she said. "You are real. Please tell me you are real." "I am real," Sam said. "My name is Sam." "I am Nina," she said. "I got on this train at Barton Street. That was, I don't know how long ago, hours maybe. The train would not stop. The doors would not open. I tried to call for help, but my phone is dead. What is happening? Where are we?" Sam looked at her for a long moment. She was shaking. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked exactly like he had felt when this first started. "I do not know where we are," Sam said. "But I know some things. Come and sit down. I will tell you what I know." They went back to Sam's car and sat down across from each other. Sam told her everything. The boy with the strange reflection, the book, the memories that sat in the seats, the stations with names that should not exist, the station with no name that was supposed to be the way out. Nina listened without interrupting. When he was done, she sat quietly for a moment, staring at the floor. "So we just wait," she said. "We stay awake and we wait." "That is what the book says." Nina nodded slowly. She looked up at him. "I heard a voice," she said, "a little while ago, before I called out to you. It was my little brother. He died when we were kids. He drowned in a swimming pool at a hotel. I was supposed to be watching him." Sam said nothing. He just nodded. He understood. "The voice told me to go to sleep," Nina said. "It said he was waiting for me. It said if I closed my eyes, I could see him again." She paused. Her lip was trembling. "I almost did it. I almost closed my eyes." "But you did not," Sam said. "No," she said. "I did not." They sat together in silence for a while. The train moved on through the tunnel. The shapes danced on the walls outside. The lights hummed above their heads. But something was different now. Sam was not alone anymore. He had someone to talk to, someone to keep him awake, someone who understood what he was going through. Nina picked up the book and started reading it. Sam watched the tunnel ahead. He felt stronger now. Not much, but enough. Enough to keep going. Enough to keep his eyes open. Enough to believe that the station with no name was out there somewhere, waiting for them. The train rolled on, and Sam and Nina sat together in the empty car, two strangers on a train that should not exist, heading toward a place that might not be real, hoping with everything they had that the next station would be the right one. It had to be, because Sam did not know how much longer he could keep his eyes open. They took turns. That was Nina's idea. One of them would rest their eyes for 5 minutes while the other watched. Not sleep, just rest. Close their eyes and let the burning go away for a little while. The other person would count to 300, and when they reached the end, they would shake the resting one awake. It was not perfect, it was not safe, but it was better than both of them falling asleep at the same time. Sam went first. He closed his eyes and felt the tiredness rush over him like a wave. It was so heavy, so deep, that he almost went under right away. But then Nina's hand was on his shoulder, shaking him, and her voice was saying his name, and he opened his eyes and sat up straight. 300 seconds, 5 minutes. It felt like 5 seconds. Then it was Nina's turn. She closed her eyes, and her head tilted to the side almost immediately. Sam watched the clock in his head. 1, 2, 3. He counted steadily, keeping his voice low, his eyes on Nina's face. When he reached 300, he touched her arm. She opened her eyes and blinked fast, looking around the car like she had forgotten where she was. Then she remembered, and her face fell, and she sat up. They did this 4 times each. It was enough to keep them going, but not enough to stop the tiredness from growing. It was like bailing water out of a sinking boat with a small cup. The water kept coming in faster than they could push it out. The train passed through more stations. Sam stopped counting after a while. There had been at least 12 since Nina appeared. Each one had a name. Each one was wrong. Some stations were empty. Some had people standing on the platforms, still and silent, staring at the train with blank eyes. At one station, Sam saw a little girl holding a red balloon. She looked up at the train window as it passed, and she waved. Sam did not wave back. Nina was reading the book again. She had been through it 3 times already, studying every page, every drawing, every word. She stopped on the page with the map and traced the lines with her finger. "Look at this," she said. She held the book up so Sam could see. Every time the lines cross, there is a small mark, like a dot. I think those are the stations. Sam looked closer. She was right. There were dots at every crossing point. He counted them. 23 dots. He had passed through at least 15 stations so far. If this map is real, Nina said, then there are only a few more stations before... She pointed to the single dot at the edge of the map, the one marked No Name. Sam felt something stir in his chest. It was not hope exactly. It was more like the memory of hope. A faint, flickering thing that he was afraid to look at too closely in case it disappeared. How many more? He asked. Nina counted the dots between where she guessed they were and the final one. Maybe 5, maybe 6. It is hard to tell. Then we keep going, Sam said. They kept going. The next 3 stations passed without incident. The train stopped. The doors opened. Nobody got on. The doors closed. And the train moved on. The stations had names Sam had never heard of. Grey Hollow, Ashwick, Tidefall. Each time, Sam and Nina watched the platform from their seats, checking for signs, looking for anything different. Each time, there was nothing. Then the 4th station came, and everything changed. The train slowed down. Sam could feel it in his body, the way the speed dropped, the way the rattle of the tracks became slower and deeper. He stood up and went to the window. The tunnel was opening up, but this platform was different from the others. It was bright. Not the dim, flickering light of the other stations. This platform was flooded with clean white light. It was so bright that Sam had to squint. The tiles on the walls were white and clean. The floor was smooth and shining. There were no cracks, no rust, no dirt. It looked brand new. It looked like it had never been used. And on the wall, where the name of the station should have been, there was nothing. The sign was blank. A white rectangle with no letters, no numbers, no symbols, just white. Nina, Sam said. His voice was barely above a whisper. Look. Nina came to the window and looked out. Her hand went to her mouth. She turned to Sam, and for the first time since he had met her, she smiled. No name, she said. The train stopped. The doors opened. The bright light from the platform poured into the car, washing over the seats and the floor and their tired faces. Sam could feel the light on his skin. It was warm, but not the dangerous warmth the train had used before. This was different. This was real. This was sunlight. Sam picked up the book. He looked at it one last time, then placed it on the seat. Someone else might need it. Someone else might find themselves on this train, alone and afraid, and the book might save them the way it had saved him. Ready? Nina asked. Sam nodded. They walked to the door together and stepped off the train. The platform was solid under their feet. The air was fresh and clean, nothing like the stale, heavy air inside the train. Sam took a deep breath and felt it fill his lungs. He felt alive, really alive, in a way he had not felt for hours, or days, or however long he had been on that train. Behind them, the doors closed. Sam turned around and watched the train. It sat there for a moment, long and dark, its windows reflecting the bright light of the platform. Then it started to move. Slowly at first, then faster. It slid away from the platform and disappeared into the tunnel. The sound of it faded until there was nothing left, just silence and light. Sam looked around. At the end of the platform, there were stairs going up. He could see daylight at the top. Real daylight. Morning light. He and Nina walked toward the stairs without speaking. They climbed them one at a time, their tired legs struggling with every step. When they reached the top, they stepped out onto a street. Sam looked around. He knew this street. It was 2 blocks from his apartment. The sun was just coming up, painting the buildings in gold and pink. A car drove past. A man walked his dog on the other side of the road. A woman jogged by with headphones on. The world was normal. The world was real. Sam checked his phone. It turned on. Full battery. The time said 6:15 in the morning. He had gotten on the train at 9 o'clock on Thursday night. 9 hours. It had felt like 9 years. From Mira. "Are you okay? You never came home. I have been calling you all night. Please call me." Sam stared at the message. His eyes filled with tears. He pressed the call button and held the phone to his ear. It rang twice before Mira picked up. "Sam, where are you? I was so worried. I almost called the police." "I am here," Sam said. His voice broke. "I am okay. I am coming home." He hung up and turned to Nina. She was standing on the sidewalk, looking up at the sky. The morning light made her face look golden. She was crying, but she was smiling too. "I live 3 streets from here," she said. She laughed, a short, surprised laugh. "This whole time, we were so close to home." Sam did not know what to say. He looked at her and she looked at him, and they both understood something without saying it. They had been through something that nobody else would ever believe. They had seen things that should not exist. They had heard voices of people they had lost. They had fought against something old and powerful and strange, and they had won. Not because they were brave, not because they were strong, but because they had refused to give up. "Thank you," Sam said, "for keeping me awake." "Thank you for being real," Nina said. They stood there for a moment, 2 strangers who were no longer strangers. And then Nina turned and walked down the street toward her home. Sam watched her go. She did not look back. She did not need to. Sam turned and walked the other way, toward his apartment, toward Mira, toward his bed and his small nightlight, and his quiet, simple life. The sun was warm on his back. The streets were filling with people starting their day. The world was bright and loud and ordinary, and Sam had never loved it more. Not that line, not any line. He walked everywhere after that, no matter how far, no matter how dark the streets were. Because Sam had learned something on that train. He had learned that there were worse things than the dark. There were things that lived in the spaces between sleep and waking, between memory and forgetting, between the world you know and the world you do not. And those things were patient. They would wait forever for you to close your eyes. But Sam kept his eyes open. For the rest of his life, no matter what happened, no matter how tired he was, when it mattered most, Sam kept his eyes open. And sometimes, late at night, when he was lying in bed with his small light on and Mira sleeping beside him, he would hear it. Far away, deep below the city, the faint sound of a train moving through a tunnel that should not exist, carrying its passengers to stations with names nobody knew, waiting for someone new to step on board. And then he would close his hand around Mira's, feel her warmth, and remind himself that he was home. He was one of the lucky ones.